Build a beautiful to-do list SwiftUI app. So this is the application we'll be creating today. As you can see, it allows the user to filter on the list. At the moment, the list has 3 records in there. So if I type in L, then it filters on all the records. That includes the letter L. And we can also rearrange the records in the list. To do that, all you have to do is click on the edit button on the top right hand corner, and then you can rearrange your records as what I'm doing here. And then if you want to delete a record from the list, you just click on done and you just swipe from the right and it will delete a record. And if you want to update the status of a record, for example, you've done it, you've completed the task, or some other action has happened, you can just click on it and then it crosses out the record. So what else will we be doing? Oh yeah, and also this feature. If you type in a record that's not in the list, it will show a no results view. So this is the actual feature we'll be creating in this tutorial. The first thing we need to do is to define a struct. So within your SwiftUI project, create a new Swift file, hold down the control key, and then select new file, select Swift file, enter the file name, which will be called task item, click on create, import SwiftUI, and then the next thing we need to do is to define our struct, which is called task item. And the purpose of task item is to enable the application to hold an array of tasks. Each task includes an ID, an auto-generated ID, a unique ID. Each task includes a title and also is done, which is a status variable that will signify if the task is completed or done or pending. The next thing we need to do is to head over to our content view. And then within our content view, we need to add the following variables: at state, private var task. As I said a minute ago, that will hold an array of task items. And these task items will be hard-coded. So this is the first element or the first record for our array. We don't need the ID attribute, we just need title, so the first task is learn SwiftUI Lists. The second task item add, delete, move item. The third item, task item, mark item as done. But in the real world, these records would be retrieved from an API or some type of database. The next thing we need to do is to add another @state variable, private var new title, which is string. And the purpose of that variable is to hold the text typed into the new task field. And then we also need another @state variable, private var query string. And that variable's purpose is to hold the current search text from the search bar, which will look like this when we create it. That's the search bar. And there. The next thing we need to do, we need to create a computed property that returns tasks after applying the search filtering. Private var filtered tasks, task item, guard, not query, trimming characters, dot white spaces, and new lines. Is empty. Else return tasks. So what that does, if the search is empty, show all tasks. And then the next thing we need to do is to type in return task.filter $0 dot title dot localize case insensitive contains, and then we pass in our query. So what that line will do, it will just return the results that relates to our query. The next thing we need to do is to start to implement our UI, our view. So we need to create a navigation stack. and also a group. If filtered task is empty, so if the filter tasks are empty, so there's no tasks to show, then we need to display an error on the screen. I made a mistake. On lines 22, it shouldn't be this closing bracket, it should be those curvy ones. That one. And also at the end of line 22, we need the closing bracket. Don't know what happened there. So that should be, let me bring this one up to the previous line. Well, let's see if we can fix it later. So if it's empty, that means we have to show a view to the user that no results can be returned or doesn't satisfy the query that the user is looking for. So we need to use content on available view, which is the third overload, this one here, that includes the title and the image and the description. So we just type in query dot is empty. So if it's empty, then we just display no tasks yet. Else, no results. No, that's wrong. Where should that go? I think the colon should be here. And then we type in no results. And then for the description, it will be query dot is empty. Oh, we missed out the system image. The system image should be checklist. And then we also need a question mark. Add your first task below. or try. And it should be, let me just delete that below. Or try. So the next thing we need to do is to add some padding. Which is dot horizontal. So this is the view that we're trying to create. This view here, no results view. Try a different search. Else, if data has been retrieved, then we attempt to populate our list. Our list includes a section for each. So we loop through the filtered results or the filtered tasks. And then to find the actual task or to retrieve the actual task to be displayed within the list, we need to get the index of that task. So we can just type in if let id index equals task dot filter, dot first index where $0.0 .id is equal to item.id. And what that will do, it will find the task index in the array. And is there something missing? Yeah, we also need an opening bracket. And then the next thing we need to do is to create a H stack. With spacing of 12 pixels. And then within the H stack, we need to show our image, which is system name task. We get the actual image from the array. It's done. Else, if that cannot be retrieved, we show a check mark circle dot fill image or circle. And then we need to change the image size by using image scale.large. Image scale.large. And also we need to assign the foreground style for the image. Tasks, it should be the index, and it should be tasks. We'll get the element on the array is done. If it's done, we display secondary, or we use a secondary style or primary. Either of those styles will work correctly in light mode as well, in light or dark mode. So what else do we need? So what have we done so far? So the next thing we need to do is to display the title of the task. So get the title of the task from our index. Title. Then we need to style the font. Body.weight. Task. Index. So that should be IDX. It's done. Question mark. Regular. Or medium. And the next thing we need to do is to create a strike through. So when the user is done with any of these tasks, they will see a strike through, as you can see in this image here. So to do that, we just type in the following, which is dot strike through task the index is done. Foreground style task and the index is done. So if it's done, then the Foreground color will be secondary. If it's not done, it will be primary. So what that line does, it just dims the text based on the status, if the task is done or not. And then we just need to include a spacer just to push the content to the left and to fill the remaining spaces. So the next thing we need to do is we need to add some padding, which will be some vertical padding, dot vertical 10, and then we need to add some horizontal padding, dot horizontal 12. And the purpose of using a horizontal padding is to create a card fill. And we also need to add a background behind the row content. So that'll be rounded rectangle, corner, radius 14, style, continuous. And then we just use fill dot thin material. What else do we need? So to make the entire row tappable, where is it now? The list. Yeah, for example, to make the entire row tappable, as you can see here, we need to use a content shape, rectangle, so that the user can tap or select anywhere on this row. They can tap here at the beginning, the middle, the end, a few pixels from the right, a few pixels from the left. So we need to create a content shape rectangle. So let's do that now. And we need to add that after line 60. Content shape, content shape, rectangle. So that will make the whole area of that row tappable. And we also need to use on tap gesture. And the on tap gesture will execute when that row has been tapped. Just type in task idx is done dot toggle, and then the next thing we need to do is to hide the default list row line, because hiding the default list row line makes the list looks a little bit more professional. So to do that, we need to type the following: dot list row separator, and then type dot hidden, and then we have to make sure we change the background to clear, so that it's list row background dot clear, so the background will be transparent. So what else do we need to do now? So we also need to enable the user to delete a task from the list, and we'll implement that feature in next week's tutorial. Build a beautiful to-do list with SwiftUI app. So this is the application we'll be creating today. As you can see, it allows the user to filter on the list. At the moment, the list has 3 records in there. So if I type in L, then it filters on all the records. That includes the letter L. And we can also rearrange the records in the list. To do that, all you have to do is click on the edit button on the top right hand corner, and then you can rearrange your records as what I'm doing here. And then if you want to delete a record from the list, you just click on done, and you just swipe from the right, and it will delete a record. And if you want to update the status of a record, for example, you've done it, you've completed the task, or some other action has happened, you can just click on it, and then it crosses out the record. So what else will we be doing? Oh yeah, and also this feature. If you type in a record that's not in the list, it will show a no results view. So this is the actual feature we'll be creating in this tutorial. The next thing we need to do is to enable swipe to delete, and the purpose of enabling swipe to delete is to allow the user to delete any of their tasks at any time. So the user will swipe from the right, and then this delete button would be displayed. So to do that, what we need to do is to add the following code after line 64, which is dot on delete offset in. The reason why we're using an offset because we have to know the position in the array or within the list that includes the record that needs to be deleted at offset, and then we pass in the offsets. And we don't need that closing bracket there. And also to enable the user to move items up and down, as in rearrange. For example, they can move an item from the top to the middle or to the bottom. To do that, we need to add the following code, which is anywhere after line 69, which is dot move or dot on move src, which is the source, and dst, which is the destination where the drop will take place. Task.move from offsets. So that's the source that we're moving, and we're moving the source to the following destination, which is DST. And also we need to define a header Is that correct? I'll just compile it. And I think that header is in the wrong place. Or I've got too many brackets. Let me compile it again. Yeah, that bracket should be there. So I think maybe the header should be defined on this line. Let me try to compile it. It's still incorrect. Is that a bracket somewhere? So let me do it again. So closing bracket there. I'll delete this bracket. It seems a bit better now. And then now I can define the header. And then within the header, what else do we need to do? So we need a text element. And the purpose of the text element is to include the caption name task as seen here. Font subheadline text case none. That should be none. And then the next thing we need to do is to style the type of list that we want to use. List style dot init inset group and the purpose of using list style dot inset group is to create a modern list with a modern appearance. And then we also set the scroll content background to be hidden. And the purpose of hiding the scroll content background to be hidden is to enable our custom background to be shown. And the next thing we need to do is to add our navigation title, and that will include the caption task. And then we add our toolbar, our toolbar will include the edit button as seen in this image, as seen here at the top, the edit button. So to create the edit button, first thing we need to do is to create a toolbar item with a placement of top bar trailing. And then we add our edit button. Do I need that one there? No, that's not needed there. So the bracket on line 85, I'll just push it down there. And then we also need to create another toolbar item with a placement of bottom bar. And the purpose of that toolbar item is to place an input bar at the bottom. And then also we have a H-stack, spacing of 12 pixels. In the H-stack we have our text field, which is our input field for our toolbar placement that we just created. Text, and the information that will be assigned to the variable is new title. And that's where the user types a new task using two-way binding. We just styled the text field to be rounded border. And then we add a submit label, that should be submit label done. And then we also use on submit, and then pass in the task that we want to add. And then we create our button. That we'll call add task. So when the button is tapped, we'll call add task and add that task onto the array. So it calls this function afterwards. And we add our label. Another label. We'll add system image plus dot circle dot fill. Oh, we don't need that extra bracket there. I'll just compile it again. And then we also need to add a feature that enables the button to be disabled when there's no information in the new title variable. So if the new title variable on line 90, if it's blank, that means the button should be disabled. So just add dot disabled new title dot trim characters in, so it's trimming it for white spaces. After it trims it for white spaces, if it's still blank, then that means the button will be disabled. We also add some padding, dot horizontal, that adds some padding to the bottom bar, and after line 100 and after line 107, we need to use searchable, and the purpose of searchable is to enable the user to search for their task using the search bar, and then the task will be filtered, as you can see, within the results. So searchable, and then we pass in the criteria that we want the information to be filtered on, and then we display search at the caption, search task. Then we also add a background color, which is UI color dot system group background, and that will match the group list as well. That background, and we also add some animation dot snappy for the value. We just choose the task, and what that will do, it will animate the UI smoothly when the tasks change, such as if we add or delete or move any of the items in the list. And we also want to animate the search query as well. We'll animate the UI when the search query changes. Animate.snappy value query. And this is what it should look like at the end.